So many people.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? I just want to share that the forum is full. We are at capacity. So everyone that is here should know that you can watch a video on the League of Women Voters website within a few days. There is someone who will take your questions. The questions will be answered in a raffle system. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. But it is heartening to see so many people coming together on a winter night like this who love the city of Appleton and care so deeply about its future. The League of Women Voters of Appleton would like to start by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional land of the Menominee Nation, and we honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. Now, the year 2020 is an important year for the League of Women Voters as well as all women. It is the 100th anniversary of both the League of Women Voters as well as the passage of the 19th Amendment. Woo-hoo! And that's the only time we're going to allow you to clap. While true suffrage for women did not happen until the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the League still believes that it is important to celebrate the milestone of 100 years of voting rights for women in this country and acknowledge the mistakes that were made along the way. We would like to thank our co-sponsors, Diverse and Resilient, and with Kathy Flores and Nick Frost, African Heritage Inc. with Dr. Sabrina Robin, and Dr. Bola Delano Oriaran. And we thank them for being with us in today's event. The League of Women Voters is committed to inclusion, especially working with our diverse, disenfranchised, and hard-to-reach communities, and we thank both of these organizations for helping us with this endeavor. Now, if you could stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you're able to stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And thank you for your interest in this forum and your support of the democratic process. This is a nonpartisan candidate forum for voters to get to hear what the candidates have to say. It is not a campaign event, and it is not a debate. We stand for civil discourse, which necessitates no interruptions by the audience or the candidates. We also thank the candidates: Eric Beach, Marsha Brewer, James Clemens, Chad Doran, Dana Johnson, Rob Kelson, and Jake Woodford for entering the mayoral race. We would also like to acknowledge that Mark Todd is a candidate for mayor who was invited to attend this candidate forum but chose not to. All of these candidates are willing to run for office and serve the community, and for this we are grateful. Tonight we hope to have at least some of our questions answered. Residents were invited to submit questions to the League website. Some of those questions will be heard tonight. The League has a couple of questions, and we invite you, the audience, to write any questions you have on the note cards and to pass them to an attendant. Would the attendants raise your hands? Okay, over there, over there. If you have a question that you've written down during the forum, raise your hand with the card like this and someone will come and pick them up. These questions will be sorted before they're sent forward. This is not to eliminate questions, but rather to group them into like categories so that we have the opportunity to ask as many questions as needed to cover a variety of topics. We have a timekeeper. The League has always found this process to be a good means to keep us on track and moving along. It is not meant to cut people off or diminish the importance of a response, but simply to use our time wisely. We have 7 candidates here tonight, and we are asking everyone to respect the time limits for each question. Jackie Klimaszewski is our Director of Voter Services, and Jackie has put all the work into creating this candidate forum. She will be presenting the questions to the candidates. Jackie?
So I have this mic. I will share it here when I'm not asking a question. Otherwise, maybe with Colleen's around, we can get another mic, or since this one is not functioning. So let me add my gratitude to the candidates for your time, for the emails and pouring through them that I've been sending to you, to share your viewpoints with our voters here tonight. And I want to thank you all for caring enough to be informed when you cast your votes in the primary election on February 18th. So I have the pleasure to moderate this forum tonight. Please note that the candidates are sitting not in alphabetical order, as one would think. They are in the order that they will appear on the ballot. And that's why they're a little mixed up. And I understand how they do that, how they decide that is put their names in a hat and draw it, right? Yeah, okay, so it's the luck of the draw. So as Jeannie described, I have some questions. I have lots of questions. Lots and lots of questions. I've been collecting them all week. And I've grouped them and pared them down. We have a lot of issues in our city, and I want to get to I want to hear their opinions on those issues. But I have saved some space for forum questions here that come from the audience. Each candidate is going to have a minute to answer the question. They have a minute and a half to answer the first one and the last one, and everyone else is going to be a minute. That means they're going to have to be very succinct, to the point, not beating around the bush, because for any one of these questions, we could very well have a whole evening forum just on that issue. So this is to get you a taste for what these guys are thinking and what Marcia's thinking. So, yes, Julie Evers is our timekeeper. I am going to randomize the order that the candidates reply to the questions so that each of them has a chance to be first and to be last. And I tried to organize it so they're not following any individual, mixing it up as much as I can. And so before each question, I will indicate what that order is going to be so you can anticipate who's going to be talking next. So, to begin, without any further ado, we will have the candidates introduce themselves in that a minute and a half. Please provide your background, your interest in being the mayor of Appleton. Why are you doing this? Okay, and we'll start with Marcia. And this round, we're just going on right on the table.
I'm dressed to the nines. I'm feeling fine. Tonight I'm already successful because my goal in running.
We can't hear you.
Close
the mic very close. Kiss it.
Well,
off to a good start here so far.
I've run in the past, and my goal in running is to talk about some of the issues that I think are important, including the location of the library, and to make it to this forum, because I had some good luck in the past, around 1988 or thereabouts, when I ran twice for mayor before we got Mr. Hanna. And I had some of my ideas adopted, and I'll give you an example. And in my item that I gave to the written item that I gave to the League of Women Voters to put on their website, I mentioned a couple of other ones. I'm proud of the fact that I was instrumental in bringing back the farm market. There was a weights and measures guy that charged every week for the farm scales for each farmer, and they couldn't afford to do that, so they went over to the Goodwill lot. And eventually, I brought in David Minch, and I met him in the bank a month ago, and he recognized me, and I remembered what a fun time that was when I worked as alderman and I could make a difference. Oh, 15 seconds, I never got to introduce myself. I'm 70 years old, I'm a prior teacher, I'm on Social Security, I don't need a job. I was born in Appleton, went to Lincoln, Wilson, and West, and I went to UW-Madison. Oops.
We'll just proceed.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Jake Woodford, and I'm running because I love to believe in this community. And I'm so inspired by the turnout tonight, and I've been hearing from so many of you out on doors saying, I'll see you at the forum on January 30th at 6:30 p.m. For like 3 weeks I've been hearing that. I'm so grateful that so many of you here are here tonight to engage in this conversation. I was born, raised, educated, and married right here in Appleton, and I'm proud to call this place home. I'm running because it's important that Appleton be an affordable, safe, and welcoming community. And I'm looking forward to hearing your questions tonight and engaging in this conversation about where our community goes from here. So again, I appreciate you being here, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters, African Heritage, Diverse and Resilient, and the Appleton Public Library for hosting this forum tonight, so that we can all be more informed about this important election and take part in the future of our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. My name is Jim Clemens. I've been a lifelong Appleton resident. I raised a family here. I got married here at St. Joe's. I grew up a block from Jacobs Market in City Park, right in the central part of downtown, and that's where I got in my most trouble, that between playing ball at the ABC house and then running down and playing some hoops at Edison, or else heading to the YMCA. I'm kind of a gym rat. I really enjoy high school and college sports. I officiated those for 20 years. So if things get a little hot and contested in here tonight, I'm pretty much used to that. Usually it's half the gym at a time. But one of the main reasons, I was fortunate and very privileged. I served on your city council for 20 years. I was elected by my peers as two-time council president. I chaired almost every committee we have. So I think when you're looking for the next leader, it can't just be one item. And some of you are very attached to one item, and I think that's great. I love the passion. But there's going to be more to that. And that item's off the table. What are we going to do next month? What are we going to do the next week? So hopefully they'll ask some key questions, and I'll get a chance to tell you how I feel about each one of the items that come up. But one thing about me, on council as council president, you always knew where I stood on the issues, and I think that's important. I'll promise you one thing. I'm going to try and represent all 75 to 80,000 people at every meeting, not just the 200 that pack the room on any one given issue. And I think that's what we all need. So thanks to all of you guys for showing up tonight. I told some of my colleagues, and I got to meet here over the days, that we're finally getting past what I think our biggest obstacle is. It's not a Democrat, Republican, it's not anything, it's apathy. And I think we're getting past that, judging by the amount of people that showed up here tonight. So thank you very much.
My name is Eric Beach. Thank you for hosting. I'm running because I'm a leader. My experience in leadership in this race are unmatched. In the Army, the level I operate at is comparable to the size and complexity of the city. I led, excelled at, and received numerous national and state commendations for my efforts in the areas of logistics, maintenance, operations, human resources, safety, training, budget, reporting, and inspections. I led from the front and implemented management and training programs for other staff and sections to share. My years in the service have ingrained leadership and selfless service in me. I strive to bring others up around me to provide an opportunity for them to achieve individually. This is evident in my service to the country and my duties and missions. In Beach House, which gives families a safe place to live and grow, and in Free Market Education, which was built and designed to be a free-to-use education platform to foster a positive learning environment for motivated individuals, built to enable education for tasks in life that we never had an opportunity to learn. I will bring creativity, leadership, and modes of action to the city. My technical knowledge, aptitude, and ability to create and implement effective policy and programs are well documented. I balance a large workload very well. I juggle several complex projects simultaneously. I never tire. I never quit. I'm compassionate. I'm calm, collected. I'm a strong leader with an undeniable portfolio.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chad Doran. I'm 41 years old. I work for the City of Appleton, doing communications for the city. I've been with the City of Appleton for almost 6 years now. I'm not a lifelong Appleton resident like a few of the folks up here. My family and I have been here in Appleton since 2007. But this is home to us. Appleton is a great community. Husband, father of 5 children. Probably a little bit crazy trying to do this as well, balancing all of that. But I think family is very important to me, and I think it's very important to our community. A lot of people that I talk to talk about how much family means and what family is to Appleton. And I think Appleton is like a big family. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. I've been with the city for 5 years, a little over 5 years, like I said. I work with all of our departments every day. I think that my position in communication really gives me a unique perspective to see the areas where the city is very successful, and also to see some of the areas where we can do the most improvement as well. I think having that knowledge of all the things that we do and why is very beneficial. My work for the city has been recognized by peers around the country. Some of the things that we've started, some of the communication efforts we've done for the city have been copied by cities around the country. I've been recognized for the last 4 years now as one of the 100 most influential people in local government. So I think that skill set that I bring is an important role for our city and a very important time in our city's history and for our future. Thanks.
Good evening, I'm Dana Johnson, and thank you all for attending, and those of you who are online watching. I'm running for mayor because I love this city. I'm not born and bred here for sure, but I am someone who has moved here, calls this home, and has had opportunities where I commute actually 61 miles each day to work and choose to live here and do that commute because I love this community. I believe it's an inclusive community. I believe it's a community that my husband and I call home. His family is here. But I'm running for mayor because I believe in public service. I've been a public servant for the last 10 years working in county human services. I'm currently director of human services, and in that role, I work with county governments, I work with communities, and I work with over 15 departments leading and managing complex organizations. I write policy, I oversee staff, I provide performance evaluations of all those staff, and I believe that that's what we need. A mayor is not just a person with a vision, it's a person who has strategic planning, organizational development, and leadership experience that actually can get things done. You'll also find me to be a humbling person, someone to whom will answer questions straight, someone to whom you can always be a person at the table and someone who listens. I grew up in Walworth County, Wisconsin. I have a master's degree in social work, so you will get a social worker, an educator, and a small business owner, all wrapped in one. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rob Kettleson. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Appleton. I got an Associate of Arts degree from UW-Fox Valley and a Bachelor of Science with a double major in Physical Education and Coaching from Winona State University. I've had many jobs throughout my life. I've been a teacher. I was general manager of Shakey's Pizza, where I had to hire and train and do the scheduling for a big buffet restaurant. I was also a district manager for the Post Crescent, where I hired and trained motor rail carriers and walking carriers. I've been a basketball official, baseball umpire, football referee. I'm running for mayor because I want to make Appleton a healthier place to live by providing residents with numerous recreational activities, improve current parks and facilities, and educate and make people aware of the opportunities for them to play. I'm also, I want to get a new senior center put up. I know the senior center was, we closed down 2 years ago. And I'd like to, if we're going to put, I'd like to see that maybe possibly put up in the new library project that would be going up. And I'm also, I've been living in affordable housing in downtown Appleton for the past 30 years. And I believe Appleton, one of my other main projects is to redevelop Pierce Park and clear that up and
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to ask is that we get these mics going, and so one of those mics can be used by the three folks down there, and another one, these two, and Rob and I will hear this one, because we're close. Please remember to keep it close to your mouth, so that we can hear every word you have to say. So this next question is we're going to start with Chad, and then go to Jim, and then to Rob, Dana, Marcia, Eric, and Jake. I'll remind you of you. Okay, so this question deals with physical style of governing. Please state your qualifications to oversee 600 employees and a $190 million budget. And Chad gets to go first.
Okay, I'll be first one. My qualifications really are that I'm already part of the staff. As I said, I work with our staff every day. I work with our director team, I work with the mayor. My office is right next to Mary Hannah's office. We talk about sort of leadership issues all the time. I see the budget process. I'm part of the budget process in our department. I see how the mayor works with the staff and with the council. I've been through 5 budget processes with the city now, directly involved in all of those. I've been to all of the budget Saturday meetings where our county council takes a look and works on the budget. I've been to all of the budget adoption sessions as well. So my qualifications beyond that really, having great relationships working with our staff, knowing what they do, knowing how much they care, and how involved they are in kind of our day-to-day operations. And really just having that grasp of all of the things that we do. I think really helps me to have a very small learning curve for this job, to make that move into the mayor's role.
Jim?
Thank you. Again, my name is Jim Clements. I served on council for 20 years. I sat through 20 budgets. I was also vice chair of the finance committee. And again, I saw some people were a little excited that a council meeting went till 11 o'clock at night. Oh boy, you should have been there. We used to have budget Saturdays that went 12, 13 hours. Then we would try and adopt the budget on a Monday. There were times we didn't get out of there till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then we started all over again on Tuesday. In addition to that, I do have finance and economics from UW Green Bay. I'm currently on the Apple Creek YMCA Board of Directors, and I serve on the finance committee there. So I know what we're in for. Appleton has got some crucial things going on here, and a learning curve is going to be too expensive for all of us at this time. So I bring a lot of history. You know where I stand. And I've also was on the other side of the budget process, being an alderperson. I know what your elected officials need. I know when they need it. And I know how frustrating it is when they don't have it at the time they need to make a decision. The budget is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time-a-year thing. And when things change, when things are completed or changed in process, your elected representatives need to know because they make the financial decisions.
I believe I'm an educated individual, and I would listen to all the viewpoints that are presented to me as far as the budget goes. I would definitely compare the budget from the previous year to the budget we'll be presenting this year. I was part of the committee that the ad hoc committee that changed the airport name. I also came up with a marketing slogan there: "The apple of your eyes and the healthy skies, the Appleton International Airport," which I'd like to see them use. The marketing director really liked it. She asked if she could use it, and I told her to give it hold of my agent. But once again, and then I've done budgets as far as the restaurant goes in that regard, and in teaching, we also had I had a large class, and we had to budget my time with each student, and then listen to all viewpoints.
So over the last 10 years, I've been in charge of actually developing the budgets for human service departments, including right now I oversee 14 different programs. I oversee over 60 staff. And in developing that budget, it's up to me to determine which line item, which programs receive those funding, how we move that narrative with our county board members, and then actually determine where we have to make cuts and then move through that process. Over the time of my career of having supervised staff, that means hiring, professionally developing those staff, conducting performance evaluations. My current budget is about $6 million, so part of that process that I go through is allocating those funds and then redistributing and then determining whether or not we're in profit loss or revenue loss. throughout the year. I also present that information to our board. The other piece I'll say is, as a small business owner, just that opportunity to actually have general accounting principles and working on those budgets year-long, year after year, over that time. And then again, supervising staff is a high skill set level that I've been doing in the last 10 years.
Marsha.
I'll do my best. I have a law degree. I have more education than the other gentlemen.
It's off.
It's not on.
I did take public labor law courses and other things that interested me while I was in school. For many years, I was a part-time ad hoc worker representing employers at unemployment compensation hearings in Wisconsin. So you do see a lot of personnel things that went bad by the time it gets to unemployment. Attorneys would never say they're expert in anything, but I probably am expert in unemployment comp hearings. I was an alderman for 2 years around 1988, and I have sat through the budget process. I would say it's about a 2-year learning curve. The mayor is not the person alone that provides the budget. We have very competent staff here at the city, and a lot of them have the Masters of Public Administration degree, some from Oshkosh and some from elsewhere. So during the year, the mayor does work with the department heads to assist them, and probably does make decisions as to what is more important when things need to be cut. We need to grow the property so that we don't have to cut things.
Thank you, Marsha. Eric?
Okay.
This one's good.
My experience with budgets is, I would have to say it goes back to 2001 when I got a job as a logistician in the Wisconsin National Guard. I had a budget of $1 million, and there were several fund codes, and we had to execute that on everything from Class 9 parts. I shouldn't use Class 9 because you don't know what that is. Repair, durable parts, non-expendable parts, and equipment. So I managed a budget, different funds, beginning in 2001, and for years I did that. And then I got to human resources, did payroll, managed that, ordering new equipment, turning in equipment, all became part of the budget. I currently run 2 businesses, and I manage the budget and all end-of-year reporting for those 2 businesses. That's my experience in budgets.
And then Jake.
I know this one's good. So first of all, I have a degree in government, which I obtained at Lawrence University in 2013, and for the better part of the last decade, I've served as a senior administrator at Lawrence. In my role as secretary to the Board of Trustees, I've managed the board governance of the institution. A Board of Trustees is not unlike a city council in terms of the type of information that they need to do their work overseeing the operation of the university. As assistant to the president, I have overseen major projects at the university, and I've collaborated with many department heads in the city of Appleton. So I'm familiar with the work of the city and the projects. I've navigated complicated code issues and projects with city colleagues. I've negotiated with state regulators, and I also manage the university's real estate, conservation or easements, and real estate issues, land use issues, and I also supervise staff.
Thank you, Jake.
I'm out of time. I can keep going.
So for the next question, we're going to start with Rob, go to Marsha, and then Chad, Jake, Eric, Jim, and Dana. And yes, I will remind you as we go. So on this question, do you think our Main Street downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change that? What is the city's role in supporting economic development projects?
I think the city's job is to provide the infrastructure, and right now I believe that the downtown is looking better every day. Like I said, I've been living downtown for 30 years now in affordable housing. I have a 2-story penthouse apartment in downtown Appleton. I think it's a great place to live. It's close to the library, the YMCA, and lots of entertainment facilities, including the exhibition center and the performing arts center. Right, I would encourage more. They have more housing downtown, you know, and then more mix of also businesses down there that want to locate down there. I'm out of time. Oh, I'm not out of time.
Main Street is pretty healthy right now compared to before they put in the downtown mall, which is now city center, east, central, and west. But the economy is really good right now. Unemployment at about 3%. Anybody who wants to find a job and is capable of working is probably able to do that. So we have, and a lot of the property in the city is in the downtown area. So I like to see it healthy, and it seems to be going good right now. We have a lot of bar and restaurant business downtown, and the PAC is helping with that. The city's role, the city does a lot. We have a lot of committees. We have economic development people, and I'm reading fast and furiously to read all the reports that have to do with this. And these reports are available online. If you look in the City of Appleton website, you can go to the planning department. I just read one on from 2010 on parking, and I skimmed over it, but I'm going to read it in great detail because we have some parking issues here. Alderman Tao asked me, oh, I'm sorry.
So is our Main Street successful? I guess successful is sort of open to interpretation, but I would say yes. Heart of any city. The heart of any city is downtown.
Problem solved.
So the heart of any city is its downtown, and our downtown is successful. Our downtown is thriving, and I think there's always more that we can do. And the city's role in economic development is providing opportunity. The city is not developers. No one wants us to be developers. That's not what we do. We have an economic development department that helps provide opportunity for developers that want to come into the city and build projects. Our role is really providing the infrastructure necessary for those businesses to be successful, providing the opportunity through the land that we make available, providing parking in certain cases. One of the examples I would bring up is the U.S. Venture project that we've heard a lot about in my role at the city. It's a question we get all the time. Where are we at with the U.S. Venture project? U.S. Venture is one of the examples of how our community can benefit from a large corporation coming downtown. Our role there is providing parking potentially, incentives to help them make that project successful. And that's kind of our role.
Jake.
So the question about if our Main Street is healthy, I think there are positive indicators. When you see the kinds of projects that are happening downtown and small businesses willing to make an investment and sustain their investments in downtown, I think that those are positive indicators. I'm concerned about supporting growth citywide, so not being solely focused on downtown. And in order to help facilitate that and to facilitate continued growth in our downtown district, I think we need to aim to deliver the best economic development experience in the region. And in order to do that, I'll create a task force that will gather input from people who've done projects in Appleton or attempted to do projects in Appleton, and to make recommendations and to complete that work by March of 2021 so that we can get to work implementing solutions and improving that experience so that we can compete as a municipality.
Eric?
Yeah, I think Appleton is a healthy community. We have lots of thriving businesses and lots of people starting new businesses. It's a great place to learn and grow. I think the city's role is to encourage businesses, encourage entrepreneurs to start businesses and create economy, to stimulate the tax dollars that come into the city, to redevelop different areas of the city, to provide incentives for companies to come in. I think that's part of the city's role. I think I'm nervous.
I don't blame you at all.
The city plays a large role in getting businesses in. But really what we need to do is empower people. Empower people to try new things, to start new things, and take new adventures. And that's really where I think the city can lead.
Thank you. Jim?
Thank you. I'm going to try to limit the response to downtown in particular because that's the question that was asked. I do agree, though, it's not the only part, and I had a lot to do with some of the things going on in the Northeast Industrial Park and the Purdy annexation and things like that. But speaking strictly of downtown, we're at a crucial point right now. There's a U.S. venture. A lot of you are connected to the library, and whether you like it or not, at this particular point in time, those two are directly connected. What's going to happen to one is going to have a huge impact on the other one, good or bad, or if this isn't going to happen, then that might expand a few other things. Part of the thing that we need to do is we need to be user-friendly, and we do have a trained staff. I was fortunate, that's another one of the committees, but I probably chaired that for a long time, was community development. And to be honest with you, we've got some rock stars in that department that work their tail off for you every day. They just need a little bit more support and they'll be able to do it. We need to make it user-friendly because if you're looking to develop, they got a whole bunch of other choices. They got a bunch of places they can go. And I'd like to have it where they come in here and they find out.
Jim.
Final yes or no.
And Dana.
I think that Main Street is healthy. Downtown College Avenue is healthy. Similar to Jim, I also believe we need to look beyond downtown, but I'll focus on that at this time. When we think about downtown, young professionals over the next 20 years is the reason they're going to choose to come to Appleton or stay in Appleton after they graduate from a technical college or from college, the four-year institution. So Main Street needs innovation. It needs business improvement districts to help create other opportunities that are beyond just our nightlife. It also means creating an innovation hub that fosters more growth in ideas of entrepreneurship, and then working with developers to be friendly to those developers, to create new spaces for them to welcome their innovative ideas to build and maintain and increase our economic development. It also means adding a better area along the Fox River corridor for people to enjoy tourism, for all of us to enjoy green spaces, and essentially drive commerce, because we are a city that draws in people to do that.
Thank you. So in our next question, we're going to start with Eric and go to Chad, Dana, Jim, Rob, Jake, and Marcia. And I'm asking this as kind of a follow-up because in the last question, at least two of you referred to some of the questions that we had regarding U.S. Venture and the library. So in a minute, tell us how you stand on the downtown development regarding U.S. Venture project and the library/apartment multi-use building.
I'm for the U.S. Venture project. I'm not really sure what the holdup is. I understand that the plan got revised again, and there's something in the works right now. I don't know exactly what that is, but U.S. Venture is supposed to be putting up a $57 million building on top of a $40 million parking structure. And then that's phase one of the project. Phase two is something else. Bottom line, though, U.S. Venture could potentially bring in $160 million into our pockets, into business owners' pockets, into property owners' pockets. So that's all new revenue for Appleton. So I'm very for the U.S. Venture project in that aspect. The library project, we'll see how that plays out after U.S. Venture makes a move or makes a decision, or how that plays out. I would like to see a pristine, great library, but I'm not really sure what this library lacks. I know it lacks some meeting space, and it's got some upgrades that need to be done. Thank you.
Chad, yes, Chad.
I fully support the U.S. Venture Project. I think it's a once-in-a-generation project for the city. I think it's very important for us to work with U.S. Venture to continue to bring that project downtown. I intimately know all of the details of the U.S. Venture Project, as well as where we are with the library project. I can't necessarily share all of those details tonight, but I can say that I know them because that's the experience that I bring to this role in being part of those projects every day. U.S. Venture is going to have a huge impact on our community. It's going to become the largest tax-paying entity in the city, and that will help us with a lot of the other things that we're dealing with, a lot of the areas of need that we have. For the library, I support us building a brand new library. It's the single busiest building in downtown. Some of its programs are bursting at the seams. We have one of the busiest teen programs in the state. Our children's programming has needs for additional space. So we have needs all over the place here in the library. And we have issues with the building itself that need to be addressed.
Dana?
I support the U.S. Venture Project, and I think that, again, it'll be a beacon to welcome other large businesses, medium businesses, and small businesses. It does have the potential to grow jobs as well in our downtown area, which will bring in people that will purchase, rent, or have housing that's in the downtown area. So I think that itself is a beacon for our future. I will say that one thing I would appreciate or offer as mayor in this particular project is much more transparency and communication about the different aspects of the project. Even though some of those pieces are under negotiation, there's not enough clarity and understanding around that project. So as mayor, that's something I think that I'd like to see or change about a major project like that. I also think we have to recognize that if we're going to offer space and dollars for a project like that, that people understand where those dollars and cents are coming from, and then what that means in the long run with a cost-benefit analysis. But I'm very excited for the U.S. Venture Project as well.
Jim?
Thank you. We just have to be a little cautious up here because those of us that are running for the position of mayor could have a huge influence on an ongoing negotiation. For that type of project, I am absolutely in favor of that. But I don't have the particulars. I do know the Schmidt family very well. I do know U.S. Venture have been outstanding corporate citizens, and I believe in my heart they're doing it for the right reasons. They could be perfectly happy where they at. I believe they want to make downtown better. I really believe that. But I don't have the details of this particular, and I don't know what the holdup is. I don't know anybody in this room that would like to see it happen. I don't know anybody at council that would like to see it happen. But it's being delayed for a reason, and we don't have all those facts. So absolutely, yes, that's what I would like to see, but it has to work, and I believe it will. And for the good news of those of you supporting the library, once that happens, that could also have a positive impact on what we do. And wouldn't you like to have a nice problem that you have to deal with too many people coming downtown, too many places to park, and worry about having a traffic flow that we thought out? That's the type of situation, those are the problems I'd love the opportunity to deal with.
Rob?
I'm for the U.S. Venture Project. I know John Schmidt. He's been a YMCA member for over 30 years. I believe he wants to also help the downtown grow. I'd like to. I'm also for the library project. Like I said before, I'd like to see a new senior center included in that project. It's a great place for the seniors. Everything's located down here. You know, they'd be part of the library also. And I'd like to, like I said before, I'd like to connect Pierce Park, improve Pierce Park, and make that it's just a short walk from the downtown. And I've designed an 18-basket disc golf course in at Pierce Park with 2 levels of tee play and a trail network through Pierce Park and a bypass trail in Pierce Park. And I'd like to connect that to Frisch Park in Menasha, or I'm sorry, in the Fox Crossing. And those I do have maps of the course at Pierce Park.
And Jake is next.
So I think having U.S. Venture downtown would be great for Appleton. I think it would be great for downtown, adding to the vibrancy of our downtown district. But I'll say, if this question is unresolved when I take office, there will be a significant and transparent process of due diligence to make sure that this project is carried out in a way that's financially responsible for the city of Appleton, because I think that's an important part of the role of mayor. On the other hand, if the question has been resolved, then my job will be to keep the word of the city of Appleton, and I fully intend to do that, and to make sure that this project gets delivered as efficiently and cost-effectively as possible. Libraries are a critical piece of municipal infrastructure, and they serve people at all stages of life. And here in Appleton, we need to make sure that we have a library that meets the needs of our community. And so if this current library and its current configuration is not meeting our needs, we need to take steps to address that. And we need to do it in a way that serves our community and is financially responsible.
And Marcia.
When I first decided I would run, I called Mr. Schmidt. It's one of the issues I'm concerned about. He's frustrated with bureaucracy. He said the deal that he signed earlier is not the same as what he's being asked to put up in finances now. I'm sure he has a budget in mind, and he'd like to build in 2020. He wants to dig a hole in 2020. I have so far found out that the problem is not the TIF district. The council does not want to sign a blank check on another very large parking ramp. We would all love to have Mr. Schmidt's U.S. venture here, and I think he wants to be here. He lives here. Half of his employees prefer to be in Appleton as opposed to some other location. He's a charity giver. I think we should bend over backwards to get him into the location on the Bluff site, which will work for him. And I think we need to build some smaller ramps, maybe some private ramps. Politically, that's been untenable in the past. Go back to the Premi ramp. But if we only supply him with his parking.
Thank you, Marcia. You'll be able to continue that thought, because the next question is going to be about housing, but then we're going to be coming to parking again, so you'll have a chance to finish your thought. So in this round, we're going to start with Jake, go to Rob, and then to Chad, Dana, Eric, Marcia, and Jim. And what are your plans for increasing affordable, accessible, fair housing in Appleton and revitalizing neighborhoods? And part of this question was also about youth, affordable housing for youth and others who are not so well able to afford housing.
So on affordable housing, I have a proposal in my vision for Appleton to put the Appleton Redevelopment Authority to work in carrying out its mission to eliminate blight and sustain or support economic development in Appleton, to support the development of affordable housing. And I think we are limited in the kinds of tools we have as a municipality to support development, and the Redevelopment Authority offers us a potential tool to help that kind of development. In terms of neighborhoods, I think neighborhoods are an incredibly important part of our community. We have a registered neighborhood program in Appleton with 21 registered neighborhoods right now, but I think that program needs more energy and input from the city of Appleton to help neighbors connect with each other and build that kind of social infrastructure that makes our neighborhoods happier and healthier and more connected.
And Rob is next.
The main thing we could do is, keep the streets and the infrastructure, keep the streets without potholes and things like that in the neighborhoods. Plant trees if we can in the neighborhood for people. There's, I guess, affordable housing that goes with people's incomes. As mayor, I'm gonna stress the fact that we need to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That people will be able to buy, have more buying power. We did that. Harry Truman did that in 1948. He doubled the minimum wage, and we entered one of the most prosperous eras in our country's history, the 1950s, and people were buying houses, and the economy just exploded when he did that. We doubled the minimum wage. So, as mayor, I'm gonna encourage that Well, right now it's being held up by the U.S. Senate. The Republican Congresses, or the Democratic Congresses voted that in, and I'm going to encourage them to do so.
Chip?
I think we all recognize the need for affordable housing and housing for everyone in our community. The city's role in that is, again, to provide opportunity. We're not developers, that's not what we do. I think it's important for us, for our role, really to provide that opportunity in several different ways. A big piece of that is through our Community and Economic Development Department. They've created a comprehensive plan. It has a housing section on it. It's available on our website. I encourage people to check it out. It really talks about the needs that we have for housing throughout the city, not just in the downtown area, but everywhere. It talks about the need for affordable housing and areas where we can use that and where we believe there are opportunities for affordable housing to be built. Our role really is then to provide that information to developers and show them where we have opportunity. We can't tell developers what to build or where to build it. We provide the opportunity through zoning. And then really what we do beyond that then is make sure that we're giving them the customer service they need to be able to efficiently and quickly build those projects and make them come to reality here in Appleton.
Eric?
I own 2 apartment buildings in Appleton, 66 total units. I rent out 1 bedrooms for just under $500 and 2 bedrooms for just under $600. Everything's included except for the electricity. Housing is not affordable right now. And all the stuff that we're putting up right now is all downtown, and that's not affordable either. And I only see 2 ways to make housing affordable. Either artificially through mandates and government-funded programs or kickbacks or TIF districts, where you flood the market, you put a lot of stuff up, and then the older stuff becomes more abundant and more affordable. So those are the only ways I see affordable housing happening. So we either flood the market with it, or we artificially do it, which is the wrong way to do it. So I think we just need to encourage development. We need to market ourselves. We need to try to get developers in here, put more structures up and more apartments up, because that's affordable.
Dana?
So what we know, based on nationwide data, is that the fair market rental rate in Appleton is high. What that means is that 78% of our market rate is higher than most average wage earners. For an example, of a 2-bedroom apartment is now $822 per month, which is 12% more than it was last year. And I don't know about you, but my wages didn't go up by 12% last year. So we have a problem with affordable housing. And if we want to talk about equity, as a mayor, what I can do as I make contracts with developers is say to them, I want you to include 20 to 30% affordable housing in the development that you create. And that's non-negotiable. We know that people that are particularly in the ages of 18 to 30 cannot purchase homes. So we need to create rental properties in which people can afford. So that is a priority. And as a social work background, with social issues at the forefront of my mind, that will help us build affordable housing.
I think we can tell developers what to build and where to build it. In fact, we got rid of SROs, single room only places, zoned them out. If you saw today's news, you can see that the Pillars organization is operating what would be called rooming houses, and that would be affordable. They are running a pipeline where they find people that are sleeping in the overnight shelter. They try to help them get jobs. They try to help them get apartments. If you have a felony conviction, it's extremely hard to get a job or an apartment because the landlords and others check you out. But Pillars is doing a wonderful job in this community. And today's news, if you saw it this morning, they have this SROs. Oh, I wish you would give me more time. I can talk extensively about housing. I've always been interested. I used to call it low-income housing. My constituents didn't like that. Now they call it workforce housing and affordable housing. I like owner-occupied, so that even the poorest people, even if they're living in a closet, can own a foothold on the American dream. And I have some very specific ideas that I'm never going to get to tell you about.
Jim?
I'll donate my time back to Marcia so she can. It's very interesting, and sometimes at the local government level, you also need to know when to get out of the way and let the free market do what it has to do. It doesn't always work. When I was the chair of Community Development Committee, we actually had started and were very successful with the Neighborhood Revitalization Program. And what that basically did is we took an ever-flowing grant that sometimes got paid back, so you had a block of money there, and you just get people taking pride in their own houses, in their own neighborhood. You'd be amazed if your neighbor fixes his house, pretty soon the next one does. People take pride in their neighborhood, and you have more affordable housing and things are less likely to get torn down. We do have other developments where there's a certain amount of mixed income housing available. I think that's great. It's better to have it sprinkled throughout the city than have one or two areas that, that could turn into blight. But the other part is you need to have a fully trained staff so that when developers are coming in, we try and get it to be a one-stop shop where they're saying, here's what we're looking to do, and we can say,
Jim.
Here's how we can help you.
Dana will go first in this round. Eric, Marcia, Rob, Jim, Jake, and Chad. And here's Marcia's chance to finish up one of her answers. Some people in our community say that we have parking problems. What do you think? How would you mitigate those concerns or change the situation?
I think some of the parking issues that people have been talking to me about when I've been at their doors is just the opportunity of knowing whether or not when there's special events that they know that there's either free parking, reduced parking, or more opportunities for that parking. I think that as we determine the landscape of parking with some of the projects like US Venture, that offers a parking ramp during the weekends in particular for events. I think we do have enough parking as based on some of the studies that have been conducted on the city. It's whether or not people enjoy the type of parking that we have. It would be, it is a priority for me to be able to create free parking areas, particularly related to the library. It would be nice to have alternate side parking on some of the weekends where it would be free or reduced again for different activities that we do have. And I would say it would be easier to be able to have people enjoy some of the parking ramps if they were a little bit more informative, they were color-coded, and we had opportunity.
I think the easiest solution is spread out the way we develop the city. Like downtown, that's the only place that parking's an issue. Go over to Wisconsin, it's not a problem. Go over a little more, it's not a problem. So maybe spread out development. Don't focus on downtown. Maybe or build ramps. That's another way to handle the problem. Or maybe change the way we manage ramps. Some stalls sit vacant when the car's out of them. Maybe we can get a car in there. Maybe we manage ramps differently. So there's ways to manage parking. It's not an impossible problem to solve. And it's probably going to get worse. Our population is going to grow. People are going to buy more cars. We're going to have more cars on the street. So the problem is going to get worse. So maybe through a means of management, parking ramp management, new construction, and spread out the development of the city. Sounds like an idea, huh?
Parking ramps cost a lot of money. The ratio is something like $100 a square foot compared to $10 a square foot. And that's why when you look around the library, you see lots of empty spaces, no buildings on there, no tax-paying buildings. Employers down here, in order to get employees to come here, they have to supply the free parking. Otherwise, if you're in a low-wage job, you're spending too much money on parking and you'll go work at the mall or someplace like that. I think some smaller ramps might be helpful in various places in the city. I was at Lawrence the other day. I used to use the Chapel a lot, and I see the Union Street is parked full. For blocks, it's parked full around there. Maybe, even though Lawrence is quite a wealthy, endowed university, maybe we need to build some parking down there. I would like to see the YMCA system being used. We have a flashcard system, and you don't need any coin. You just go in there. If you're a member, you flash your card. Other people can come in for $2. But it's a very convenient system. I could see putting that on the tax rolls and giving everybody a flash card.
I've lived downtown for 30 years and I've never had trouble parking. There's places around Lawrence University, you can always park, Pine City Park. I think it wouldn't hurt if the venture project, if we even expanded made that parking ramp even a little bigger, with more room for more cars. There are, as far as when you get outside of the downtown area, there's plenty of places to park there. So I guess that's one of the ways we could look at it is, we could build another parking ramp in the city. Possibly we'd have to raise the rates on parking to be able to afford that. I certainly wouldn't want to raise people's taxes, and if we do another parking ramp somewhere, we definitely should put it in a TIP district where the taxes would go to pay for that over the next 30 years. So.
Jim?
Again, it's a nice problem to have. I believe we have adequate parking, but it's not as convenient as those of us that are spoiled would like it to be. We don't want to walk 2 blocks in the winter, and we want to be able to park right in front of the store, and we don't want to plug a meter. Well, we're going to have to do it anyway, and I'm in favor of that. The large ramp behind Theta Care, when that was originally built, I was on council. I had to fight like heck to move it from 4 floors to 7. Can you imagine the issues if we didn't have that foresight? And we're in the middle of some pretty big projects now that has to be factored in. But I can tell you, no time soon are the parking meters going to go away. It's nice to talk about, it's nice to promise everybody that, at least on the avenue. And one of the main problems you have is everybody that works on the avenue is going to park there, not in front of their store, but a block over, and those that want to use it for retail, you got no place to park. So those things are going to change. Have enough foresight, and we're going to have a little inconvenience, but we're going to be busy, and we're going to have nice problems to deal with. And I hope it stays that way for a long, long time.
Jake?
I think the first thing to acknowledge is that parking is not free. It's not free. It costs somebody something. The average surface parking stall in the United States costs $3,500 to build. When you start going above grade, it's $18,000 a stall, starting when you start building above grade. So someone has to pay for it, and I think it's important to acknowledge that when we talk about maintaining that infrastructure and looking to build or considering building additional infrastructure. I think large parking structures are part of the challenge. When you concentrate all of that parking in areas, it leads to those long walks. So I think thinking about parking more pragmatically and moving forward, where do we put it? Where are the right opportunities if in the future we need to add additional parking? But I also think as a community we need to start looking forward and thinking about what it's going to mean to be a multimodal community where people get around in different ways, not just in cars, but on bicycles, in transit, because that time is coming, and we need to have the foresight to plan for it now.
So parking is more of a perception issue for those that feel like we don't have enough parking. We have about a little over 3,000 parking stalls in our 3 city-owned parking garages. We have a little over 800 on-street parking stalls spread throughout downtown. 2015, we did a parking study for the city. As part of that process, we have more than ample parking. In any various part of our City Hall offices, you can overlook the top of all 3 of our city-owned parking ramps and never see them full outside of like Oktoberfest and a couple of rare days during the year. So parking isn't the issue, it's perception. And parking is expensive. And so we need to work on educating our community more about the options that we have, how they work, and how available they really are. That's a project that our staff and I are going to be undertaking here in the next couple of months. I think that we also need to keep in mind, though, that we are working toward the future and building more than just parking. We are looking at increasing our bike lane program that we have and adding other options
we'll
for
start
other
on our
forms of
next
transportation.
question. Okay, so on our next question, Jim will start, Marcia, Rob, Dana, Jake, Chad, and Eric. And so we're kind of wrapping up some economic development pieces, and transitioning into some other issues. So in terms of developing an economic development plan, how will you incorporate diversity and inclusion for both a resident and a supplier perspective? What criteria do you have for partnerships with businesses and organizations, basically? And Jim is starting.
Okay, well, that's a great question, and the diversity and inclusion is a huge issue. in particular on this on this item, it should be open. I think most of the people, and even we heard when we just did our most recent forum in front of the Hmong community, we were talking about diversity and inclusion. You know what they told us? We just want to be treated like everybody else. We have the same concerns that you do. We're business developers. We want to develop. We want to do things just like everybody else. We have the same concerns about raising a family in this community. We have the same concerns about having a fair, safe place to raise kids and an equal opportunity at business. Once you level the playing field, we'll compete head-to-head with anybody. And we just got to make sure we keep that playing field level. And a lot of that comes from training that staff again. I keep going back to that because that's huge. Some of the first touch points you have with the city, you got to have a well-trained staff that know where to tell people to go in which direction and what they need. So I think it's hard to just, it would be nice if we could say diversity and inclusion is all covered.
Marcia's next.
Because Marcia's next.
The Hmong Forum allowed us to speak as long as we wanted to, so we could actually finish
We can't do it anymore.
A long time ago, I suggested a business incubator in the lower part of the Praney building, and it turned out that the next mayor and the realtor put the Praney building upstairs as a condo owner on 5 and 6, and probably something on the 1st. I didn't know what a business incubator was, and I only know a little bit about what I read, but they have them elsewhere. In today's news, there was something in Green Bay about a women's, 30 seconds, a women's business incubator. But I pictured sharing of telephone and secretarial and maybe getting some cheap rent from somebody, maybe the city or Appleton downtown. I don't think we have one yet, but you can go to technical school and learn how to operate a business. If you have money, you can start a business. The Hmong people, I learned the other day, most of them own houses now. They are citizens, they are voters, and they are very interested in business. Oriental peoples are fairly
Thank you,
capitalistic.
Marcia. Rob?
I don't believe there's a diversity problem in the city of Appleton. I've been living here my whole life, and there's never been a diversity issue. I think that if you treat everybody the same and give them, with their talents and their backgrounds, that things are going to work out. I come from a sports background. And that sports is a national, it's a national language. If you can perform, you're going to be able to play because coaches want to succeed, and they're always going to play the best player. They're going to play the best players. I've noticed that I guess we just don't really have a problem with diversity here. If somebody's breaking the law as far as a rental, people aren't renting out to certain nationalities or something. They're exposed and they're held accountable for it.
Can I ask you to repeat your question?
Yes.
Please, thank you.
In terms of developing an economic development plan, how will you incorporate diversity and inclusion from both a resident and supplier perspective? What criteria do you have for partnerships with businesses and organizations?
So I think one of the things that when meeting with Karen Nelson from our city is her Dignity and Respect campaign is moving into a next phase and really looking at creating a diversity and inclusion scorecard for our city. That scorecard, similar to Best of the Valley, would be implemented for all of our businesses, all of our local organizations, and anyone that wanted to do business with us, and then we would rate those businesses and offer that opportunity as a public display to say you're inclusive, you're part of our community, you're welcoming, and essentially it could also hold employers accountable to that. But I think the other piece that's related to that economic development and diversity and inclusion is getting people to work, getting people into our city, and that includes affordable transportation and essentially redoing much of our transportation, including the multimodal effect of bicycles, cycling lanes, and then looking at how much transit actually costs, bus systems, and then commuting people where they actually need to go rather than having just downtown.
Jake.
So I mentioned earlier my commitment to create a task force on economic development to review our practices as a municipality and to make sure that we're delivering the best economic development experience we can in the region. As a part of that, we need to listen to people. We need to listen to the people in our community who have either tried to do business or are aspiring to do business here, to hear their input and to learn from them what they need from the city, to meet them where they are so that they can bring their vision to a reality, to support that to the extent that's appropriate for the city. I also believe it's important that the City of Appleton conduct a comprehensive review of its policies and procedures to make sure that it's treating people equitably when they engage with the City of Appleton. So whether you're taking out a building permit or you're paying a parking ticket or you're applying for a job, you are treated equitably when you deal with the City of Appleton. I think as mayor, that's something that's a high priority for me.
Chan.
In my role doing communications for the city, I talk with a lot of employers. I talk with a lot of business owners. And if you talk with them, and you talk with partner organizations like New North or the Chamber of Commerce, diversity is one of the topics that always comes up. We want a diverse workforce here in our community. It's what attracts more people to come here. This is one of the things that is key for our organization, and it's key for a lot of different employers in our region. And they're looking to the city to lead on that, and that's one of the areas that I think we are very successful in the realm of diversity. Our diversity coordinator has done a lot of great work through the 20 plus years we've had that position. Our current diversity coordinator also has a number of programs and initiatives that are helping us as an organization become more diverse so that we can lead the way for other employers to follow suit.
Eric.
As far as economic development and diversity and inclusion go, I think everybody gets treated the same and everybody has the exact same opportunity. It doesn't matter what creed or color you are. I think everybody has the same opportunity.
So continue, please. There's no comments from the audience. You're just listening.
If you have a plan, go for it. If you have a goal, take your shot. If you don't take your shot, you're never going to achieve anything. If you want to achieve something, go for it. Pick it, find out how you're going to get there, and do it. Only our hard work gets us places. The government doesn't give us things. The government can't give us those things. They can't make us prosperous. Only we can do that for ourselves. And if the city treats people differently, then something's wrong. And I don't think the city does. And I'm sorry if people feel that.
So for our next question, we'll start with Marcia, go to Jake, Jim, Chad, Eric, Dana, and Rob. Do you support the city diversity and inclusion position being included in the budget and in the mayor's office? And if you were in that position, did you vote to support it when you were in office before? Starting with Marcia.
At the time I was alderman, in the 1980 census, there were about 50 people that identified themselves as black people. And I thought, well, I don't see them here. Where are they? Back then there were 50 people. Now we're at about 20% of the population. Back then, maybe if we had had that type of a position, you could have eliminated it in budget cuts, but not anymore.
Jake?
Yes, I support the position unequivocally, and I support it being in the mayor's office. And I think it's an essential part of organizational management now to have colleagues who are looking at the work your organization does through the lens of inclusion. It's not just city government, it's not just colleges and universities, it's also businesses now who are adding these positions because they play a critical role in the way that organizations do their work. So yes, unequivocally, I support the position.
Jim?
I think Kurt Nelson is doing a fantastic job in the current position. I wish I could tell you right now that the position wasn't needed, but it is. And that's the easy part. We've got somebody that's a diversity coordinator. We can create all the task force we want, and all they're doing is reaching out to the community as touch points and then coming back and telling us what we need to do. But it's not going to be limited to the diversity coordinator, and it's not going to be limited to the task force or the mayor. It's everybody sitting in this room. When you see something that's not tolerable, say something. We got a next generation coming up that, that stuff that it's just not cool, and they tell their peers that. And that's the only way to get to the bottom of it and stop it. So we can form task force, we can have city positions, and the mayor can take a stand. But if you're not dealing with it every day and stopping it every time you hear it, we're all just talking. And sometimes it's inconvenient. I can tell you, I've been in situations with my kids, and I've embarrassed them quite a bit because I overheard something that wasn't right, and we confronted it. Back in my neighborhood, if that happened, we confronted it a different way, and I'm too old to do that now, but it's got to stop.
Aaron. No, I'm sorry, Chad.
Diversity is one of the strengths that makes our city a really special place. I think we've had a focus on that for a number of years now. As I mentioned, 20 plus years we've had the diversity coordinator position for the city. Mayor Hanna has been a very strong proponent of diversity and inclusion in Appleton. And I think he's really set the example, and we've seen the success for Appleton and how other cities are sort of starting to follow our lead in that realm as well. Diversity really brings culture and knowledge and a lot of other qualities that really help make Appleton that special place here. And I think that the role is very important. Our current diversity coordinator, Karen Nelson, and I work together very frequently. I help in my role of doing communications, promote and educate about the different programs that she's building for our city. And there are a number of them, and she continues to do very good work. And we're seeing those results, and that's important, and that's something that we'll continue doing.
Aaron.
We do have people in Appleton disenfranchised due to language barriers, cultural barriers, not knowing. So it's an important role, and some people need extra guidance. So it is a needed position. But I hope people know, regardless of where we came from or where we are, we all have the same freedom to do whatever we want. We all have the same freedoms as everybody else. Every person is equal. Thank you.
I absolutely support the Diversity and Inclusion Office and the staff, and I actually have a plan to enhance that. I believe that every top 100 company in the world, including every city that's experiencing growth in population and economic development, has more diversity and inclusion as part of its core. I'd actually like to create a Diversity and Inclusion Institute out of our office, which would generate revenue for the city to help pay for that and additional projects related to diversity and inclusion. And that institute can be tied in providing training to our different community organizations, training to our educational partners, and then training to our business partners to increase both knowledge capacity and that inclusion project. I think the reason it's always been under threat is because it was underfunded, and now we'd have an opportunity to pay for it and draw revenue to focus in on other projects. I also think this also means ADA compliancy with all of our buildings in our downtown area as well as north of the city, and I think we need to use that as well.
And Ralph.
I also support the diversity coordinator position. I'd like to think I could handle it as mayor without a diversity coordinator, but they have other views that I might not have. I believe that I think the thing that separates us more maybe than diversity and color and nationality and things is I think it has more to do with how much money you make. I think I work with many diverse individuals in my jobs in manufacturing, and when we're all working together, there is no problem. I know that most businesses, I haven't experienced a business yet that has discriminated against anybody, and I've had no problem working with individuals of any nationality myself. So.
Okay, thank you. For this round, we're going to start with Chad, go to Jim, Rob, Dana, Marcia, Eric, and Jake. What is your history of supporting and your plan to support the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community?
Well, I think that that work starts in our Office of Diversity and Inclusion. That person is with the city for a reason, because that is that person's area of expertise. That's not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is in communication. I think that's a very important role for the, very important quality for the mayor to have. But I also think you need to know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And that's not one of mine. It's not one of my strengths. But we have people for that. And so to me, that work really starts with working closely with our diversity coordinator who would help lead our staff in that effort. That's her area of expertise. And her role really for the city is helping our community as much as it is helping us, ensuring that we're making Appleton a diverse and welcoming place for everyone.
Jim?
Thank you. That's another very interesting question as it's put to us, and I got to go back to another answer I had. Bullying or discrimination against anybody for any time is totally unacceptable. I just won't accept it. And again, I don't have a lot of experience, as Chad said. I've worked on other things. I do know some people in that area. I treat them as people that happen to be black or white or gay. They're people first, and either you get along with them or you don't. But if anybody treats somebody poorly just based on that and doesn't even know them, but like I said, it is totally unacceptable. We do have some ways to reach out to the community and find out how we can do better, and I'm willing to learn. What you don't want is anybody that comes in this position and thinks they know everything already and is not willing to learn. That's crisis management. So again, I don't have the experience as much as some of you do, but the one thing that I'll have, and that'll be continuous, if anybody's bullied or discriminated for any reason, I just won't tolerate it.
Great. Rob?
I guess I haven't, since I've lived in Appleton, I haven't experienced maybe just not a broad discrimination against the gay community. Just little pockets of individuals, and when you bring them out into a crowd, then they don't respond that way into a large crowd, but they may just in little pockets they'll express some kind of like oh, you're a fag or something like that. But when they get into a large forum, that doesn't happen. I've designed an 18-basket disc golf course exclusively for kindergarten through 5th graders at Erd Park in Appleton, and I know that anybody would be able to play there, and including the gay community, and they're going to like that also. It'd be the first one in the world that's been put up, and I'm looking forward to get that put up as mayor.
Dana?
I'll start with the fact that this evening while I was standing up greeting, there was a gentleman telling me that I needed to repent my lifestyle. So that was, I wish you were there, Jim Clemens, to help me in that effort. But I will tell you that I support the LGBTQ community by being a mayor that stands up for the community, by attending the conversion therapy ban hearings, by supporting people who were bullied by members of our community as they were trying to express their viewpoints. I support it by donating to causes. I support it by trying and walking with people and standing hand in hand. I support it by creating businesses and being part of the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce and telling people they are welcome and safe in our city. I support it by being part of boards, by donating, by being part of charity functions, and by training people on LGBTQ inclusivity. And I know that that's just a part of who I am, but I do want you to know it is a priority for me because it is who I am. And it's a lot of different things related to how we manage our city, and I thank you for the opportunity.
I don't think anyone could improve upon his answer. I can't believe that people would be so tactless as to make remarks like that to anyone on any issue. Gay people have a new strategy now, and that's to come out. They used to hide in the closet. A couple of times I've seen the Stonewall presentation on public television. I think this new strategy is working politically for gay people, and I'm glad to see it. I like Jim Clemens' answer. I see people first also.
Eric.
As mayor, I wouldn't treat the gay community any differently. They're just like us. They're no different. They have the same agenda, same dreams, and same goals. And they deserve the same respect as everybody else. So I wouldn't treat them any differently than I treat anybody else.
Jake?
I just want to say that I'm proud to consider myself an ally, and I show that by using my roles, and I've used my roles in my life in student leadership and as a professional to help foster an environment where people can feel safe and welcome, and that's for all people, but specifically as far as the LGBTQ community is concerned, I want all people to feel safe in our community. And in listening to people who've shared their experiences, and we heard an experience just now from a fellow candidate. We need to listen to people who are having these experiences, and we need to join in the work of standing up and looking out for the vulnerable in our community, and that is part of this work.
Okay, for our next question, we'll start with Rob, Marcia, Chad, Jake, Eric, Jim, and Dana. What is your position about local law enforcement working with federal agents such as Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to aid with deportation of undocumented individuals?
I guess I don't think that they should be thrown out of the country if you're not a citizen. That should be the first question asked by local law enforcement. They're here to enforce the laws in the community, and that's what they should be doing when they pick somebody up for speeding or any other issue that breaking the law. As far as cooperating with federal law enforcement, I don't think they should cooperate in that regard at all. I think that federal law enforcement, if they would like, they want to find out who's illegal here or whatever, I don't think they should be able to force people to demand that to produce a card that says they are a resident of the United States of America.
Thank you. Marcia was next.
I feel very strongly that the police here, under my direction, would never work with ICE. I also think that we should have a universal driver's license, because the price of not having it means that you have drivers that maybe don't follow the rules of the road or don't know the rules of the road. So some states have it. I think we should all have it. It should not be an issue at the federal government.
Chad.
So I work with our police department on this issue from the communication aspect for our community. It's been something that they've been working on for a long, long time. Our police department works with very closely with other local, state, and federal law enforcement partners. We're following all federal laws. The police department always has, and they will continue to do that work. What we don't do is look for people who may be here in our community that may not be documented legal citizens. So we're not actively out looking for that. Our police department is doing the work it's always done, which is ensuring that we have a safe community. Everyone who is here is welcome here. Our community is what really makes us a special place, and our police department really is here to ensure that everyone feels safe in our community.
Jake.
So I'm not in favor of Appleton Police Department participating in low priority immigration enforcement. I do think it's essential to comply with federal law. However, if you're here to contribute to this community and want to be a part of this community, I shouldn't be harassed by law enforcement. And if this is a priority of the federal government, then they should carry out that priority if that's their prerogative. But it shouldn't be put on, that burden should be put on local authorities to carry out those mandates.
Eric?
So the question is really, do I support illegal immigration?
The question is, what is your position about local law enforcement working with federal agents, such as ICE, to aid with deportation of undocumented individuals?
I don't support illegal immigration. I support legal immigration. I think people should go through the process. I think we should know who is coming into our borders and who are our neighbors. There are a lot of illegal immigrants in Appleton. A lot of them are great people. I wish our immigration system was faster and more expedited, but it's not. The mayor won't have the power to change that. If ICE needs to come here, that's the law. That's the federal law. That's the way it works. I regret that, especially if they've been in our community for a long time, if their children are going to school here, if they've made this their home. It's a very regretful thing that happens. But I can't change that. And I wouldn't fight a higher authority than the Appleton Police Department. Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, I believe that our police officers, led by our police chief, should follow the law as written. But there's one thing that really, really troubles me, and that's there's groups of individuals now, whether we want to close our eyes to it or not, but they're involved in child trafficking. They're here illegally. They're caught up in a living hell. And I don't want them to not cooperate with the police for fear of deportation. So we've got to work through that. They need to be able to cooperate and get rid of the real problem, you know, and still feel comfortable enough. What these girls and boys and children are going through right now is just horrible. You don't see a lot of it, but it's here. It really is. So as far as following the law, absolutely. The police should be able to cooperate with federal, state, and other law enforcement, but we've got to find a way to fix this problem. It's huge, and I don't want them not coming forward for fear of deportation. They got a story to tell, and they got some people that need to be put behind bars. Thank you.
Dana?
So there's a couple pieces I'd like to address in this answer. One is that I do agree that we should not violate federal law, and if someone is asked to comply, that we talk and discuss what that looks like. But no, I do not want to have my law enforcement work with ICE and be engaging and rounding up the citizens that are part of our community, contributing daily to this economy and assisting us. So I think that that's important to recognize. We also are understaffed in our law enforcement agency, so I'm not even sure we could provide these services if asked. So that would be a priority for me as well. Because again, if we are an inclusive area, we create public safety for all individuals, and we create that inclusivity by providing safety and support. I also think Common Council has a say in this, and they have an opportunity to create different ordinances or policies related to this. And however that was presented based on voters, I would support whatever that was drafted.
Okay, for this next question, I've got a little introduction because this is a question that came from the Appleton community, and it is the reality for the individuals who are asking this question. So I'm going to preface it with that. Like many other cities, Appleton has seen a rise in racial, economic, education, health, housing, and social justice disparities for the underserved and overlooked populations. As the City of Appleton's mayor, what will you do to intentionally dismantle racist and non-inclusive structures and systems? Eric, Chad, Dana, Jim, Rob, Jake, and Marcia.
As the mayor of Appleton, what will I do to dismantle racist and non-inclusive structures?
Yes. And systems.
and systems. Well, if I was made aware of any racist or non-inclusive structure or system, I guess I would look at it and I would wonder why it's there. I'm not aware of anything in the city at this time that is racist or non-inclusive. But if it was built, if somebody put something up that was hateful, I would take it down as fast as possible. I would find out who put it up and why they put it up. I wouldn't tolerate it.
Chad?
Well, there's a lot in that question, certainly. I think the way to really answer that from the mayor's role is that we lead by example. The city's role is to provide opportunity for everyone in our community to be successful. So we do that in a number of different ways through housing initiatives, through making Appleton a safe community for everyone with our police department, the way that we provide different levels of service to people in our community. Again, back to our diversity coordinator and the work that we do in the diversity realm there, and working with partner agencies in the community at various different levels. This isn't really a problem per se for the mayor and the city to fix. This is a problem for our community. We are not going to be successful as a community unless everyone in our community is successful. And so we need to work together, all of us together, to solve those types of issues.
Dana?
As a mayor, I think you have to be the beacon, a calling card, someone that stands up and says, these are issues that we face, and we're going to use every piece of our strength to be able to address that issue. So again, working with diversity and inclusion, having conversations, being the beacon to say, we're going to have conversations in our community and talk about race. We're going to talk about the discrimination that's occurring. We also get a lot of complaints as a city, so being able to resolve those complaints and be able to hold landlords accountable for, inequitable process. We're actually going to have to handle complaints regarding business owners or people that do not treat customers with the same dignity and respect, and be able to address those complaints. So in essence, being able to have conversation and educate, support those who have been wronged, and then improve the way in which we have those conversations so that people feel welcomed, and then holding them accountable when they actually decide to discriminate.
Jim?
I gotta tell you, that type of thinking just baffles me. I don't understand how people can think that way about other people for any reason. Again, the diversity coordinator, any of these task force, anything you want to do, they're touch points. They're going to come back to us and make us more aware of the problem. And when you deal with bigots and people that are like that, shine a bright light. Shine a bright light. Let them stand up and let everybody else see what's doing, and that's the only way. We collectively can fight it. Individually, I'm not just going to put it on the diversity coordinator. Let's have a task force. They meet a couple times. What action comes of it? And again, this thing just totally baffles me. I don't understand for the life of me how people can do that or treat other people like that, regardless. Now, the other hard part that you're going to find, even some of you that preach tolerance, when somebody's up talking about something you don't agree with, everyone gets pretty heated in a hurry too. So we need to listen to each other from all sides. But again, I hate to keep going back to the same point. It's just unacceptable to treat people like that. And it's not coming from your government, it's got to come from you.
Rob is next.
As mayor, I would definitely want to get all the views in the community, and as mayor, I'd be able to schedule a meeting, an ad hoc meeting, if you will, and have my diversity coordinator also, advertise to people that are out there to find out what the problem is and meet as a group, and I'd be able to do that as mayor. I'd be able to advertise where we're going to meet, and have a place to meet, and also be able to schedule a time and have that advertised through the paper, the news, and the radio, and they would it'd be to get everybody's view of what's going on and what's happening. That it isn't right. Because as mayor, I'm interested in everybody's viewpoint, and because I don't know everything, believe it or not, and I'd like to, I want to include everybody in that conversation.
Jake?
So I talked a little bit earlier about the importance of the city taking an inward look when it comes to issues of equity and making sure that it delivers an equitable experience. And when we talk about systemic issues, I think it's important to recognize that systems yield results. And so if we're not happy with the results that a system is yielding, then we need to take a serious look at it. We need to gather data, and we need to take action, and we need to measure results. And I think that's an important process to undertake in any case, but particularly when it comes to social justice, but making sure that people in our community are treated equitably. It's also important to listen to people. I've been saying that over the course of this evening, but it's really important to listen to people when we go through that process of gathering data and to use that data and information to drive the change that we'd like to see in our community.
Marcia?
Very tough question. I've been in courses where this was largely the topic, especially when you talk about structures and systems. Ask about affordable housing or low-income housing. Very complex issue. Do you remember the redlining case in Milwaukee where the insurance and the bankers would not lend in certain areas? And finally, American Family was found at fault and had to spend a whole lot of money on advertising. So now you see their advertising aimed largely at minority people. Are you aware that there were hangings in Wisconsin until about the 1920s when usually black men and white women got together? The famous case is Virginia v. Loving, where they got married in another state. They came home to visit, and it was illegal to live together in their state. This is 1920, that's pretty recent, I would say. Do you know there are deed restrictions in Wisconsin where you are not allowed to sell your property? That's ignored now, but if I pick a jury...
Marcia, thank you for your summary of some of the things that have happened in the past. I value that. No, really, it's important case law. I get that. We need to move on. So in this next round, we're going to start with Jake, go to Rob, Chad, Dana, Eric, Marcia, and Jim. Will you commit to reducing or eliminating Appleton's greenhouse gas emissions by producing local, carbon-free solar, wind, water, geothermal, municipal power? Do you support Appleton using geothermal to heat and cool city buildings?
So there are some specific initiatives and ideas in this, and I think first we should look at this issue a little bit more broadly, which is, I think as a community we need a framework for evaluating decisions around sustainability initiatives that takes into account the capital expense, the operating expense, and the overall health of our community when we're making decisions about any kind of intervention around sustainability. I am supportive of Appleton reducing its greenhouse gas emissions and its reliance on non-renewable energy. And how that takes shape will depend on the project. So I don't know that I won't say there's a one-size-fits-all solution in terms of meeting those objectives. And it has to take into account the capital expense and the operating expense of that intervention to make sure that we're not only making decisions that are good for the health of our community, they're also financially responsible.
Rob?
I definitely believe we should definitely look at solar energy for so many things in the city, that, especially like traffic lights. We're getting better at it right now. I mean, we can collect that solar energy and then use it throughout the, in the nighttime as well as in the daytime. I guess that's one of the main things that I would expand on is the solar energy.
Chad?
I do support our efforts to be as sustainable as an organization and as a community as we can. I think one of the ways that we have opportunity to do that is with the new climate task force that was formed by the Common Council. They're going to be making recommendations and doing some of the study for things that we can do as an organization to make us more sustainable. And I look forward to working with them on some of those recommendations. But we've had a sustainability plan for the city for a number of years already. We've checked all the boxes for the simple things, going to energy efficient lighting and those sorts of things. We're working on much bigger projects now. We just completed recently a biogas boiler project at our wastewater treatment facility that is going to pay back our investment in that project in 6 years. And then it is already drastically reducing our energy costs at the wastewater treatment facility. So we're making very good progress in that area already, and I support us continuing to do that work where it makes financial sense for the city.
Dina?
I absolutely think that we need to look at different approaches to sustainability. I think as we look at building projects such as a new library that's mixed use, or I'd like to call it a thriving library with a multi-use area, we need to look at net zero energy buildings, opportunity for solar, and really showcasing whatever it is that the climate task force brings back and says, you know, we'll give you the green light to do that. But we do have to definitely look at the cost benefit analysis of that. We have to understand what that means economically and if we'll actually see the returns in a lifetime. So I am with looking at how we are able to sustain, how we work with developers in assisting in building better buildings that again, mitigate our carbon footprint. And then really looking at other types of fuels or things that we can use, again, to really create a green and environmentally friendly city.
Eric?
Yeah, I care about our environment. I've done two solar installations myself, one rooftop and one pedestal mount. It's not cost prohibitive to do this. The systems were $10,000 or less each. I installed them myself, and they paid for themselves in 10 years. It was a fun project, and I think high school students could do this. I would love to explore this, maybe even some micro wind generators around the city. It'd be a fun project to get some college and high school students involved in. I think it's going to be cost prohibitive if we hire companies to do it. When you get quotes to do this kind of work, it's very pricey, especially when we start talking about geothermal and pulling loop fields through the ground. That's the expensive part. But I definitely want to explore this. I definitely love the idea of net zero buildings. I've explored that myself, and it's pricey. It adds to the cost of all the buildings. It's not an expense. It's not a cheap way to go.
It's your turn.
I like Mr. Beach's answer. Heating is about half the fuel oil use in the U.S., I read. So if we could figure out how to improve insulation in the houses more, we do have some federal funding for that, and there are some crews that come out. Also changing over to LED light bulbs, which seems like a simple thing. That's important. I did visit the, you burn garbage and you get gas off of it, and down at UW Oshkosh I went with a school sustainability group trip down there, and I see that as feasible. We do that at Allegheny County in the landfill. I like the idea of the climate task force that the mayor has recently appointed. And whenever we prevent sprawl from happening, we reduce the amount of auto usage going out and back. And when we can build up in the city and reduce the sprawl that moves out, we don't need as much concrete and there's less. And when I see the buses, I'm very encouraged. Young people are using them. Old people.
Look at me when you said that. Yeah, this is an evolving technology. It's no longer a nice to have, it's a need to have. I think all things should be on the table. You can't hear me? Oh, no. First time anybody ever said that. But you have to have all options on the table, thermonuclear, whatever you need to do, but you need to show me the data as it comes forward. What you don't want to be, and we learned a very expensive lesson once in the city, is being on the cutting edge and being the first one in on certain technology. You know, plan for it, get some data, find out what the ROI is, find out what we can afford, and then find out where it's actively been implemented in other areas to see what bumps they ran into. You don't want to be first in, but you don't want to be last either. And again, this isn't a luxury. I told every team I ever coached, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. You're not staying the same. We need to get better, we need to constantly look for ways to improve. If it can be done more efficiently, we got plenty of places to spend that money. But again, look hard, get the data, share it with everybody, and then have a plan.
Okay, so Dana's going to start this one. Eric, Marcia, Rob, Jim, Jake, and Chad. Because of the increasing frequency of severe weather events caused by climate change, what would you do as mayor to protect people, business, and property?
Well, one of the things that I think is important is recognizing where we would be most impacted by weather and whether we would have to create some kind of eco-friendly barriers to certain areas that might be affected by wind. We would need to look at our development of both zoning when it comes to flooding, things like on the Fox River, and being able to actually mitigate that, whether we have to actually build more levees and things that stop that from happening. So I think it's, again, that's the ability to look with both our climate task force, using data, as Mr. Clemens recommends, using data to drive what is the best way to incorporate those structures throughout our region. And then I think it's also having a rainy day fund to help support those homes that are damaged and being able to help rebuild or use CDBG funding to help some of those blighted properties when things like that happen and be trauma informed when we approach those things.
Eric?
Be prepared. You know, like if there's a bad winter storm, we're prepared. Our plows are out, we're salting, we're plowing. We have equipment, we have a plan ready. That's the best we can do. You know, we don't know what Mother Nature's going to throw at us at any given time. So all we can do is be prepared, have a plan, and have all of our people prepared.
Marcia?
In 1848, the Fox River was the biggest whitewater in Wisconsin, and the reason we have low water at times, and it's not the big whitewater anymore, is some dams that are in the lower Fox west of Lake Winnebago. I do wish that when people are allowed to build buildings down in the flats here, that they are being told that that is a floodplain if anybody should ever bomb those dams. Nobody would think of that but me, I guess. People should at least know that's a risk. And maybe it hasn't flooded in 150 years, so they don't actually need the flood insurance, but they should prepare for that. We have Outagamie County Emergency Preparedness. This may be more of their job. I think our departments are already working with them for vehicle and other utility type things. We're blessed not to get tornadoes here. I once took the climate class, not often, not like Tornado Alley in Texas, and the weather is changing.
Okay, and Rob is next.
I would work with the county and install more sirens, encourage them to use those sirens when we have an approaching weather event. I was, this summer we had at the farmer's market, that was occurring at the same time as the straight line wind event was coming through the whole state. And I was watching it on TV, and we could see it an hour before it was going to happen. You go, okay, I'm watching it as TV2 had it on, and they're like, okay, here it is now, and it's coming now. And I don't know why the city, the police should have been out there and pulling those people off the street and saying, hey, get out of here right now. They left it up to the vendors to decide when they were going to leave, and then it was too late. There they are, just trapped in this, and all their booths are getting blown over, and all their wares are getting strewn over the street, broken and everything. So I think we should pay attention to the weather events and the people that are monitoring them for us.
Thank you. Jim?
Thank you. I got to tell a quick story, and I know I only got a minute and a half, but it seemed like I can tell you a quicker story. During that last event that we were talking about, and one of those tornadoes we never get, I was a brilliant individual. I decided to take my dog Otis for a walk on the trail. And as we're walking down, I see the storm coming. I'm a mile and a half from home. We hunkered down between two pine trees for about 45 minutes. And the fence that started behind us ended up in front of us. And my lovely wife, Lisa, who's in the back, called me and said, should I come and get you? But how I can relate this back quickly is right after that storm, Paul and the people at Municipal Services went through the parks. What a great job they did clearing things up. You know, if we want to be prepared, the key is going to be have a plan, know who's in charge, and have the intergovernmental communications, because that tornado's not stopping because it says Grand Chute or Takana, or we've got a disaster in this area. We do a great job with police right now, cooperating with the different areas.
And Jake.
And Jake cooperates with a lot of areas.
I think one of the most important things to be thinking about as we face extreme weather events as a community is our infrastructure, and making sure that our infrastructure is built and equipped to handle the loads that will be placed on it. We've had 3 of the 5 wettest years on record in the last 5 years. So making sure that our stormwater infrastructure can stand up to those tests, and continuing to make the investments that we've made over generations in this community in our infrastructure to make sure that that water gets where it needs to go and not into our basements. I also think that it's important to continue to staff an emergency management position. There's a new position in the health department in emergency management in Appleton, and I think that's a critical position in terms of preparedness. And I think it's fitting that it's in the health department, because we may think about these issues in terms of storm damage, trees down, but there are also public health implications for the kinds of weather events we're going to face as a community when you be prepared for that too.
And Chad is next.
Well, I think one of the roles that our climate change task force can look at is how can we as a community be better prepared. But within our own organization, that's something that we've been doing for some time now. We have an emergency preparedness coordinator position in the health department, as Jake said. I work with that person very closely. I also work very closely with our police department and our fire department. We share emergency and preparedness type messages often with our community. Those largely go unheard, especially during the summer storm season when that approaches in the springtime. We work with those departments and also our county emergency management departments to educate residents about things they can do for preparedness. This is also somewhat on us. We're doing our part to do our best to help our residents be as prepared as we can be. And from the infrastructure standpoint, we are continuing to work on other things like our stormwater infrastructure. That's something that we've been continuing to do for years.
So we're to our second to last question now. I'm motivated now. And we will go with Jim, Marcia, Rob, Dana, Jake, Chad, and Eric. So we know that early childhood education makes a positive impact on school readiness. Finding an affordable childcare affects all sectors of our local economy. Early childhood programs are struggling to retain and recruit a workforce, resulting in centers unable to staff classrooms. What are viable ways you will support the childcare, early childhood industry if you are elected? Jim?
That's a great question. I'm trying to figure out how we can help from the mayoral role and not the school board role. My daughter, Mackenzie's here sitting in the front row. She was a K-4 teacher after she graduated from Madison. And I learned firsthand about how tight the budgets were and how they couldn't get things and how difficult it was to hire people. I wish I could have a 1-minute answer and we could fix this problem, but it's a huge problem. I'm willing to listen. I think, again, we need to find out what we can do. But again, I saw it firsthand, and there's some really good people that just can't afford to teach anymore, and there's some really good institutions that look to work with our youth, which is extremely important. They can't afford to do it. So I'm lost. I just don't have an answer for you what we can do to fix it automatically. But I'm willing to listen, and if anything that we can find and something that's feasible, that will get a lot of my attention and a lot of my energy. And again, I lived it firsthand.
And Marcia?
I'd like to see a state and school board assist with this. believe in 4-year kindergarten, not 5-year, and maybe 3 years is a little bit young, but we do have some child care facilities, and a lot of moms think it benefits their children to be associating with other children and have those kind of school experiences. I have never understood why people that work in early childhood care make so little money compared to what the kindergarten teachers make in a public school. I think most teachers around here now start at about $35,000, and at the end of the career maybe at $72,000. But I do think the disparity there is a problem. There are some federal programs that will help moms, or there used to be federal programs, I'm not sure if they still exist, help the moms to pay for their child care. How does a mom work when she is paying probably half her wages out for child care? She'd have to be working in a very high-class, high-priced job.
Thank you. Rob?
I was an ADHD child at Huntley Elementary School before they really had a diagnosis of what that was. I'm definitely for early childhood education, at least by 4 years old. Definitely get a head start, and through your whole learning career, that's definitely going to help you out getting that early start. I believe that maybe that we should have the state should fund some of that. And once again, it comes down to it's an income issue too, as far as a lot of the problems that we have in education and things. If we get the minimum wage up to $15, federal minimum wage up to $15 an hour, the wages are going to increase for the group of people that are working right now just above that. They're going to have to raise those also. So I know a lot of people say, oh, the going to go up, but I don't see the price of education won't go up if we raise the minimum wage to that level.
Dan?
I think this is a really great opportunity for the city to partner with the county. So looking at some of the social assistance programs that come through the county, we can definitely help fund with those families, not the city itself, but the county programs that we have. I think for us, you're talking about a shortage of people working in that industry. So I'd like to look at what that workforce development initiatives we need to have with the city, whether that's partnering with educational institutions and then those businesses to actually create youth apprentice and then move people into, whether it's a 2-year degree program, and essentially create a workforce development pipeline by getting people involved and interested in those careers early on. And then through that, we can fulfill those roles that the city actually, or that the people in our city really need to provide that early childhood education. But again, I think that's a big partnership, and it's just saying education first is important, and that will create a robust education system here.
Jake?
A couple of things in this issue that I want to talk about. First is being a community that's affordable, being a place where people can afford to make a life, and that's a high priority for me. And that's thinking about how we use municipal resources, making sure that we're not unduly burdening taxpayers in this community, but that we're also growing the tax base so that we have more people contributing. On filling critical roles and retaining people in critical roles, I think early childhood education is one component of this, but we also have issues in other critical roles like mental health professionals in this community. We are underserved on that front, and so I think we need to study issues of what the appropriate role of a municipality can be in fostering the attraction and retention of people in critical roles where we're currently underserved as a community.
And Chad?
As a parent of 5 children, I recognize the value of education from birth on, and I think that's very important for everyone in our community. But the city really has limits in what we can do. This is one of those areas that this isn't a core function of local government. Really what we can do to help attract those educators to come here is continue to sell Appleton to people to bring them here, to bring families here, to bring those educators here by showing them all that Appleton has to offer. That's really what our role in this environment can be. We aren't the experts at talent attraction, but we have knowledge about what makes Appleton a special place. And our role really is going out and selling the community to those who don't know what we have to offer, to bring them here, and by bringing more families here, we'll bring those educators and create those opportunities for them to be successful here as well.
Erica.
Childcare is critical. Just about every family I know is dual income. Both parents are working, or it's a one-parent show, and they're making ends meet. So it's a critical need. And it's unfortunate that unemployment's where it is, but I don't know the solution. Maybe if daycare raised their prices, they could pay their employees more. But we can't subsidize stuff like that. We can't subsidize everything. So I don't know the answer to that problem. But maybe the cost of those services need to go up. Maybe that's the solution. Yeah, bad answer, right? Bad answer. I understand. It's not an easy problem to solve. You'll tax my time.
So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to finish this off, and we're going to give them 30 seconds this time. Half a minute, and just have to respond to why should I vote for you. And we're going to start with Rob, and start with Marcia. 30 seconds. Why should I vote for you?
I think you should vote for me because well, I'm an educated individual. I'm willing to include everybody to the table. I've got a lot of projects that I'd like to put up that will help the entire community. I'm a leader. I've been a leader my whole life, and I know that I can lead Appleton and in the right direction and make it a better place to live than it is now. It's a great place to live, but I know that I could definitely improve Appleton.
For me, you should vote for me because I'm a heart-forward person. I believe in compassion. I believe in using the skills that I have in my 10 years of leadership and bringing that to the office. You'll find transferable skills. You'll find someone who listens more than they talk. You'll find someone who's humble, who sits behind and listens to what people have to say and finds the most intelligent people about topics I might not know about and bring them forward to make the best decisions. You'll also find someone who just wants you to be a part of the city because I love it just as much as you do.
I would hope people would vote for me because they recognize the experience and the knowledge that I have with our staff. Not just in one area of local government, but all of it. I live it, I breathe it every single day. I love public service, I love what I do, and I work with all of our staff on a daily basis. And I know all about what we do. And that experience matters at a time like this when we have a lot of opportunity in our community, a lot of areas we can capitalize. That experience will make a difference.
I'll ask you to vote for me because of my track record. I have 21 years of successful experience in the military. I led troops, I was in hard places, I had to make hard decisions to get the job done. I was successful, I was recommended, I was commended, I was put in difficult positions because I was going to be successful. I'm successful now in my 2 businesses, and I know I'll be successful in this job.
I've heard a lot of different things from a lot of different people tonight. And when it comes time to vote, you're going to just have those few seconds before you hit that lever. And I just want you to think about one thing. Who can best represent what you believe in, who's got the experience and the knowledge of how the system works to get things done. I'm a lifelong Appleton resident. I love it here as much as you guys do. I'm so happy to see this place full for a change, you know, when we're talking about things that don't directly involve your backyard. I served with council 20 years. I've been on every committee. I worked with every department. Some of the department heads that are currently there, I helped bring them in, and I'm going to let Jake tell you the rest of my
Well, I'm Jake Woodford, and you should vote for me because I'm prepared to lead. educationally and professionally. I have deep roots in this community. 4 generations of my family have called this place home. I love this place. I'm passionate about it. And I believe in our future. I want to represent a wide range of perspectives because we have a wide range of perspectives in this community. So I'm running for mayor to represent those perspectives and to help us move into the future together with a vision that's reflective of who we are.
Thank you. And Marcia?
Of all of these gentlemen that are here, I have the most education, and probably because of that, the understanding of different systems. If you ask me the time, I could tell you how to build a clock, is the criticism people level against me. I have a little bit of experience, having served 1 term as alderman back in '88, and I ran twice for this job and was not selected. I have creative, pragmatic ideas, and we have not even got to touch those tonight. I have definite ideas about the library and about the U.S. Venture Project. I have respect for people and how hard they work, no matter what their income is, to earn what they earn. So I respect that they are having to pay taxes and...
Thank you, Marcia.